Sarkic cults. Let's just say your religion involves flesh, like a lot of flesh. Your own flesh, other people's flesh, the whole concept of flesh as a divine and transformative force in the universe. And no, this doesn't mean you worship charcuterie boards or whatever. Instead, you worship something called Yaldabaoth, a god of meat, hunger, and biological chaos. So here's how a typical day goes. You wake up surrounded by people who share your beliefs and also look slightly different from when they went to sleep. Because that's the thing about Sarkicism. Flesh is not fixed. It's material that can be shaped, merged, even evolved if you worship the salami god hard enough. The higher you climb in the cult hierarchy, the more dramatically your body reflects that. And by the time you reach the top tier, you are less of a person and more of a sausage. Anyway, this whole mess was founded by Grand Karcist Ion. He's an ancient guy, possibly still alive somewhere in some form, possibly resurrected as a prosciutto. He was a slave, who also happened to have serious beef with the deities, and his entire strategy for dealing with that beef was to, you guessed it, become the beef. He then built an entire religion out of the idea that the human body is a weapon you get to upgrade forever. Real started from the bottom energy, except the bottom was literal slavery, and the top is becoming a hot dog, but better. So yeah, you're into biological, let's say, upgrades. Survival rate of people who stumble into a Sarkic ritual uninvited? Very low. And the ones who do make it out don't exactly come back looking the same. GRU Division P. Life as GRU Division P means you work for the Soviet government, specifically for the branch of Soviet military intelligence dedicated entirely to paranormal phenomena. Think of it as the KGB, basically the secret police. Except the files on your desk are a lot weirder, and the things in the basement are a lot angrier. It all started because Stalin was convinced the assassination of a Bolshevik leader in 1934 wasn't just a regular shooting. Apparently, he was right. This gave him all the paranoia fuel he needed to let the Abnormal Occurrences Commission run wild. And that eventually became you, GRU Division P, with the P standing for penis, psychotronics. Your job was to track down anomalous objects and entities and figure out how to weaponize them before the Americans do. But you weren't just looking for objects. Instead, you kidnapped regular people who just happened to display anomalous traits and dragged them back into facilities for experimentation. Apparently, this still didn't stop other GOIs from treating you like a second-tier player. But then, you started successfully planting spies inside the US government to manipulate things from the inside, and everyone's opinion updated pretty fast. Anyway, your daily life was very tense, because the people running experiments down the hall were not running them carefully, and everyone knew it, though nobody said anything. Accidents happened often, people disappeared, and the reports got filed. But no one cared, so the work continued. Then, the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, and GRUP officially dissolved. To this day, nobody fully knows where it all went, but given that some of those loose ends have razor-sharp teeth, can teleport, and can end the world on any day, that's a problem that didn't dissolve with you. Survival rate of anyone on the wrong side of your experiments? Let's just say the paperwork is the only thing that makes it out completely intact. Shark Punching Center. All right, everyone, take a deep breath, because we're about to dive straight into nonsense. Because you punch sharks. That's it. That's the whole organization. You are a member of the Shark Punching Center, a group that exists in a parallel universe basically identical to the SCP universe. Except instead of a foundation that studies and contains anomalies, you have an organization whose entire philosophy is built around the physical confrontation of sharks, specifically, punching them. And look, I know it sounds fishy, but the SPC is actually a full parallel to the Foundation. They have ranks, hierarchies, mobile task forces, documentation, and containment procedures. They just replace essentially every anomalous concept with sharks. Instead of SCPs, they have sharks. Instead of containment chambers, they have sharks in them. Their answer to every existential threat the universe throws at them is the same. Find the shark, punch the shark, and write the report. So yeah, your daily life is actually pretty simple. You wake up, you assess the shark situation, you address the shark situation with your fists, you file a report detailing how many sharks were punched and whether the punching was effective. Then you sleep and you do it again tomorrow. The absurd part is that it works. Their whole approach is ridiculous. Their worldview is basically just sharks bad, fists good. And yet they are committed to the bit in a way that earns a strange kind of respect. Is it the right approach? Absolutely not. Does it get results? Oh, for sure. Herman Fuller's Circus. One day you're living your life. The next, there's a tent where there wasn't a tent before. And before you can really process what's happening, you're part of the show. Because you are now a performer in Herman Fuller's Circus of the Disquieting, an anomalous traveling circus that's been running since the early 1800s. It moves through the world and occasionally through other worlds, entirely via a device called the kaleidoscope. And I can't lie, the acts are absolutely booming. You've got a man who stores infinite objects inside his own mouth, stillborn infants in jars who sing barbershop harmonies, and clowns who bend reality instead of balloons. The audience leaves amazed. But you don't leave at all, because here's what you need to know about Fuller. He loved the spotlight, but he did not love the people creating it. The freaks he kidnapped were tortured, discarded, transformed, or replaced the second they stopped being profitable. The circus was technically a family, but it's the kind of family you'd describe to a therapist in a very quiet voice. Then came Icky, a converted clown with real magic abilities and enough backbone to do what nobody else had managed. She led the performers in overthrowing Fuller, had him yeeted into a dimensional void, and took over as ringmaster. Under her, everything changed. Performers who were forced to stay could leave. New members joined willingly, and the circus finally became what it was always supposed to be. Unfortunately, the Party Pooper Foundation is still constantly trying to shut you down. But for some reason, the paperwork always checks out. I mean, the show must go on, right? Anyway, survival rate of audience members? Actually pretty decent under Icky. Fuller's era, though. Very different story. Anderson Robotics. You all know Silicon Valley, right? Now put it in a city that doesn't exist on any map. Now, make the product sentient. And now, ask yourself whether that's an ethical problem or a marketing opportunity. If you did all that, then you're exactly the kind of person they're looking for. As someone who works at Anderson Robotics, you do a great job at, you guessed it, manufacturing. Specifically, a full line of anomalous robots and androids, all named after falcon species because the founder had a thing for birds, apparently. You've got humanoid utility droids, androids built specifically for infiltration, and prosthetics that integrate directly with the human nervous system, using a combination of technology and actual magic. Naturally, this stuff attracts high-end clients, such as the Global Occult Coalition and Marshall, Carter, and Dark, which tells you everything about the price point. But here's the gray area. Some of the individuals coming out of your operation aren't just random products. Instead, some of them are fully conscious. Oh, and they're also forming their own communities, making decisions and having opinions. Their legal status sits somewhere between appliance and employee, depending on who you ask. According to Anderson's, that answer is appliance, obviously. Anyway, your daily life is quite corporate and quite boring, honestly. You've got meetings, R&D, product launches, and you're always making sure each new generation of products is more capable than the last, while also being slightly less likely to lead a robotic uprising. It's a balance. Survival rate of employees who raise concerns about android sentience. Low, career-wise. The androids, though, every generation, they get better at surviving. Ambrose Restaurants. You ever look at a menu and think something is missing? With that something being extinct animals and alternate timelines? No? Great. But it looks like your boss did. Welcome to Ambrose Restaurants, the only place where today's special might legally not exist yet. You are part of a restaurant chain that serves anomalous cuisine to a crowd that knows exactly what they're walking into and has decided that, yes, they would very much like to eat a healthy salad that tastes like cheeseburger. And let's just say the food is extraordinary. The chefs are sourcing ingredients from places that don't appear on any map, from time periods that no longer exist, from realities that technically never happened, and somehow, every single time, it results in a perfect plate. Which makes sense because Ambrose Restaurants operate behind the veil, meaning the regular world has absolutely no idea they exist. The whole operation runs on a combination of anomalous supply chains, deals with other groups of interest, and some informal understandings with the Foundation that nobody's putting in writing. Some of the rarer ingredients come from time periods and dimensions that raise real questions, like what exactly is in the pre-extinction tasting menu? There are dishes sourced from places that ceased to exist centuries ago. Others come from realities that technically never happened at all. The answer is always on the plate, though the menu politely doesn't explain further. But day to day, you are plating things that have never been plated before. You are serving guests who will remember this meal for the rest of their lives. It's the perfect balance between a Michelin-starred restaurant and a fever dream you're grateful to be having. Survival rate of diners? Very high. The food is extraordinary, not hazardous. Like, most of the time. Children of the Scarlet King. Let's talk about your career path. Technically, you had options. Practically, you chose apocalypse. Because you are a follower of the Scarlet King. You know, that ancient dimension-spanning dude with the power to end the world, who's also so old that he predates most of the mythology built around him. He exists beyond normal containment, bleeding through the edges of reality itself. And if you trace the worst things in the entire SCP universe back far enough, his fingerprints are on most of them. Just like they are on his 7 brides, which is where you come in. Your task is straightforward. Find the 7 brides, perform a ritual, and trigger an XK-class end-of-world scenario. I can happily say that 6 births have already happened, where each one caused a global disaster. The Foundation currently has the 7th woman in containment running a procedure so disturbing that your people, who sacrifice people for fun, collectively decided that went too far. Anyway, your people believe that the Scarlet King is coming. His children, the Leviathans, already walk in parts of reality most people will never see. His influence already touches things that humans were never designed to process. And you, as a follower, are actively helping all of that along. Rituals, recruitment, kidnapping people, whatever needs to be done. Most of the time, you're fine. But what the onboarding doesn't mention is that, according to the people at the very top, they don't actually want to worship him. They're haunted by him. Survival chance? 10%. Being functional at this level means you still remember your name. You only hear the screaming sometimes, and you've stopped explaining the drawings on your wall to house guests. So, progress, I guess? And there you have it. These are the groups running things in the background of the anomalous world. Some of them want power, some of them want you to subscribe, and some of them just want to punch a shark and go home.